Hey guys, my name's Ashley. I'm a vet tech. I'm taking my VTNE in about a week and a half. I'm kind of nervous, definitely excited, a little worried, all of the emotions that you're supposed to feel, I guess, before a huge exam. Today I wanted to go over like medical calculations and some of the things that may or may not be on the VTNE. And if you want to just review with me the calculations, stick around. I know the audio is going to be a little weird, and also maybe the lights and stuff like that. I don't have a professional setup or anything. I'm going to have the word problems up so you guys can read it, try to do it on your own, and then work the problem out with me. So let's start. Okay, so the first problem is a patient is to go home on Clevomox. He weighs 60 pounds. The dose is 14 mg per kg. What size tablet should you send home with this dog? So it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. What you have to realize is that a lot of these problems are going to give you information that is not really necessary. This question is kind of straightforward. But it may throw you off because you're like, what size tablet? What are you talking about? Anyway, okay, so the two important things in this problem are his weight and the mgs per kg that they give you. So write that down, right? So you have the 60 pounds and the 14 mgs per kg. You're gonna wanna convert that by dividing by 2.2, because the question is asking you for the kgs, not the pounds. If it was 14 mgs per pound, then you can use this number. You can't use this number because it's in pounds and we're asking for kgs. So that's going to be 27.3, and this is going to be your kgs. And then you're going to multiply that by this dosage that they gave you. 27.3 kgs. 14 times 27.3, the kgs cancel out. What you're left with is 382. So you have 382 mgs, okay? 382 mgs. It may or may not be exactly that on your answer, because if I remember correctly, this question was one of the questions that I got on Vet Tech Prep, and the answer I think was like 375. That was the closest thing that I could get to 382. That doesn't mean your answer is wrong. It just means that they're trying to trick you once again. So try to get as close as possible to that answer. Maybe I can get my husband to do one for you guys. The doctor asks you to decrease the patient's fluid rate by 15%. Their current fluid rate is set at 150 mils per hour. What's their new rate? This is also pretty simple. All they're asking you to do is subtract 15% from the 150 mils per hour. So what's important here is the fluid rate. So what are the things that are important in this question is the fluid rate, so it's 150 mils per hour. And then 15%. So you're trying to decrease that by 15%. So 150, and your percentage is going to be 0, I guess, 1, 5. So I convert that into 0.15, so it's easier to do on that little dinky calculator that they give you. And what you're gonna do is multiply these numbers. The reason I know how to do this so easily is because I do this for shopping. So when they're like, oh, 30% off, all you have to do is multiply the percentage that they're giving you off by the price, and then you subtract that from the original price. So that's exactly what you're doing here. You're gonna have your original number. You are going to multiply it by that percentage that they want you to decrease, and that's gonna give you 22.5. So this 22.5 is the mils that you're going to subtract from the original. 127.5. So 150 is the original, you multiply it by the percentage that they're giving you, that gives you the mils that you're going to subtract from the original. And 127.5 is your new fluid rate. Okay, so the next problem is how many milligrams are in 100 mils of a 5% solution? And you thought you were doing it? Okay, you can do it. I'm gonna have my husband do it for you guys. This is my husband.
Hello.
Oh my God. He doesn't talk like that.
My name is Sean.
His name is Sean.
She didn't introduce me correctly.
No. Oh, this is Sean, my husband. He made me pizza bites, and I'm gonna eat these while he teaches you
She's struggling.
how to do how to do this problem. Okay? So, how many milligrams are in 100 mils of a 5% solution? So he's gonna write out what's important.
So we know we want to get our milligrams, we have our mils, and then we also have our concentration of our drug, which is 5%. A lot of people have some trouble with 5% when you get a percent in a drug concentration. So just to give you an easy way just to solve this portion of it, you're just gonna add a 0. So this concentration will be 50 mgs per mil. So that's gonna be your concentration that you're gonna use. So basically, this is a pretty simple question. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take your 50 mgs per mil, and you're gonna multiply it by that 100 mils. And then what you're gonna get is your milligrams, which is 5,000. So you're just marking out your mils. You're gonna be left with milligrams, so you're gonna be 5,000 milligrams, and that's gonna be the dose of your drug that you're gonna give into that solution, that problem. Another way that I like to check to make sure that I got the correct milligrams, so to check my answer basically, is I'm gonna take my 5,000 milligrams and I'm gonna divide it by my concentration, which is 50 mgs per mil. And then you're gonna cross out your milligrams and you're gonna be left with a mil, and it's gonna be 100 mils. So that's how I check to make sure that it all makes sense.
A veterinarian would like you to administer 22 mg per kg dosage of Cefazolin to a 50-pound dog. You need to reconstitute a new bottle of Cefazolin. How much sterile water will you add to a 1 gram vial if you want the concentration to be 200 mg per mil? We have to figure out what's important. This question is kind of confusing because it gives you a whole bunch of unnecessary information. So the 22 mg per kg dosage, you don't need to use that. The 50 pounds for the dog, you don't need to use that because you're not trying to find out how many mils you're administering. You're trying to find out how many mils of sterile water you're going to put into the vial to reconstitute the Cefazolin. So the important information is just 1 gram. This is for the vial. And the 200 mgs per mil is the concentration they want you to have that Cefazolin at. So you're going to change the 1 gram into milligrams. And then all you're gonna do is divide the 200 mgs per mil. So you cross that out and that equals, what does that equal? So 5 mils are going to be put into that vial to make the 200 mgs per mil concentration. Okay, so that was pretty straightforward. The reason I put this one after a little bit of a more complicated one, is because I wanted you to see like how confusing they can make questions, but in all reality, you just have to pick and choose what information is important to getting the actual answer. How many milliliters of 25% dextrose should be added to a 1 liter bag of 0.9% saline to make a 5% dextrose solution? So, this is pretty straightforward also. You just want to find out the mils that you're going to add to that solution. And like Sean said before, if you ever see a percent, like percent dextrose, this is the solution and it's going to be in mgs per mil if you just add a 0. So 250 mgs per mil, okay? So I'm gonna do that to the whole thing, write it out on the board and come back. So we have the mils that we want mils. 250 mg per mil dextrose solution. We have 1 liter, which we're gonna turn into mils because we wanna find out the mils. We don't wanna find out how many liters. So 1,000 mils. And then the 0.9 saline doesn't really matter what they put on there. They could say norm, they can say head of starch, they can say anything. Any type of fluid, and that part doesn't really matter. And then 5% is going to be 50 mgs per mil of dextrose. Once you find out all the important information and then also exactly what you need to get, that's when you can figure out what equation you're gonna use. Because in here you can see that you're trying to find mils or a volume. You have 2 concentrations and you have another volume. You can use the C1, V1, C2, V2 formula. So I'm gonna go ahead and write that all out so you guys can see it. So now that I've written out exactly what we wrote out before, but just in the C1, V1, C2, V2 formula. So 250 mgs per mil is the first concentration. The volume is mil, because we don't know, that's what we need to find out. C2 is 50 mgs per mil and V2 is 100 mils. That was the 1 liter bag. Honestly, it doesn't matter which way you put this. Like you could put 50 milligrams per mil times 1,000 on this side and this part on this side. It's the same thing. You just have to make sure that the correct concentration is with the correct volume. Okay, so once you have this down, this is simple, like, what is it when people say it's simple, like algebra or whatever. So all you're gonna do is you want this mil, because this is what we're trying to find out, on one side by itself. So the mil, you're gonna divide this by 250 mgs per mil. That crosses out, obviously, 250 mgs per mil. Your mgs per mil cross out, and you divide that to get 0.02, and then your 1,000 mils are gonna be here. Then you're gonna multiply these two. This is still the same. You're not gonna do anything with that. 0.2 times 1,000, and that equals 200. So you're gonna put 200 mils of 25% dextrose needs to be added into a 1 liter bag to make a 5% dextrose solution. The next problem is, How many liters of 50% dextrose should be added to a 5-liter bag of 0.9% saline to make a 5% dextrose solution? This question is similar to the last question, but this time I personally do not change the liters to milliliters, but my husband does. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you both ways that you can do it. It gives you the same exact answer. We just literally went through it and did it. This just goes to show that math can be done in many different ways and you can get the right answer as long as you're doing it correctly, obviously. So let's go ahead. I usually do my C1V1 weird. I just read the problem and write it down as I go. This may or may not work for you. You can go directly off of the C1V1 equals C2V2, just so you can keep it straight in your head. But this is the way I do it. This is the way it works for me. So I'm gonna write it down and then show you. So X liters is what we want, 500 mg per mil, 5 liters, 50 mg per mil. The reason that I don't change this liters is because if you change it at the beginning, then you're going to have to change it back. So it may be a little confusing. You may forget that last step thinking like, oh, I got the answer, and then you don't convert it back to liters so you can get the correct answer. So that's why I don't do it, just because I forget things sometimes. So this 500 mg per mil cancels out on this side, and then the way that I do it is that I cancel this, divide this, and then multiply this way. So let me just show you what I mean. Equals 5 liters times whatever's left from this. So I don't know why I left that big old space there. And then I multiply that by 5. And that equals 0.5 liters. X liters equals 0.5. So half a liter, okay? And so this is what I have. The mil times the 500 mg per mil, 5,000 mils, 50 mg per mil. So you do the same thing. You divide 500 mg per mil. And you do it on this side too, 500 mg per mil. And what you're gonna do is do the X mils equals, and this is again 0.1. You multiply that, and that's gonna be. So 5,000 times 0.1. 500 mils. Now you have to do that and put that into liters, which is what? 0.5 liters. This is the same thing, except on this one you have to do a little bit extra by converting it to mils and then converting it back to liters. I choose not to, but it's up to you. Percentage, we have a dosage, and we have some pounds. So it's kind of all of the things that we've been dealing with, but now they're all together and we have to figure out what we're doing with all this information. So how much 2% lidocaine should be drawn up if performing an intra-articular injection at a dose of 2 mg per kg in a 38 kg dog. Thankfully, they already changed the weight of the dog from pounds to kg. This is actually a really simple problem. So we're going to multiply 38 kgs times 2 mgs per kg, and that's gonna give us 76 mgs now. And we're gonna have 76 mgs divided by the 20 mgs per mil, and that's gonna give us our mils that we want. Boop, boop, that cancels out, so let's go ahead and do that. 3.8 mils is we're gonna pull up from that 2% lidocaine solution. So now for the last one, we have a CRI, which is everyone's favorite, I know. These are actually my favorite. I don't know why, they just make sense. So it's 30 kgs. Okay, that's the first thing, 30 kgs. The doctor wants you to start him at 4 micrograms per kilogram per hour. And then the concentration of the fentanyl that he wants you to start him on is 5.05 mg per mil. And the fluid rate that he's on right now is 100 mils per hour. How much fentanyl do you add to a liter bag? So, and then we have a liter bag, 1 liter bag. Let's see. So, we have all this information. This is gonna be very much a plug and chug kind of thing. This microgram per kilogram per hour. So, whenever I'm doing this problem, I automatically want to get all of this over with before I start with like the fluid rate that they're on already. So this kind of goes together and this kind of goes together. So the first thing that I like to do is convert. So I'm going to convert that micrograms to milligrams. So there's this thing that I learned that I do. So if it's small and you want it to go big, you divide. So I look like a little divide sign. And if it's big and you want it small, then you multiply. I don't know, I look like a little dot. So it reminds me, small to big, divide, big to small, multiply. 4 divided by 1,000 equals 4 divided by 1,000 equals 0.004 milligrams per kilogram per hour. So now what I'm gonna do is multiply that by kilograms to get rid of that situation right there. 0.004 milligrams times 30 kilograms. And you want to do this to get rid of that kilogram right there. So that cancels that out. And what you're left with is milligrams per hour. So that equals 0.12 milligrams per hour. Now you don't want the milligrams, you want the mils. So what I'm gonna do is the same thing we always do when we have one of these. We divide it by the mgs per mil. And the mgs per mil was given to you. The mgs per mil is 0.05 mgs per mil. So. So now what you have is 2.4 mils per hour. So this is how much you're giving the dog in the bag per hour. But we want to know how much to put in the bag. You're not going to put 2.4 mils in the bag because it's going to be way less concentration that you're going to be giving him. So you have 1 liter. And what you're going to want to find out for that 1 liter is how long that bag is going to last. And that's going to tell you how much you're going to have to put of this, what is it, fentanyl, into the bag, okay, with this and this. So that 1 liter, how do we find out how long the bag is going to last? What is their rate? Their current rate, and how much is in that bag. So to find out how long that bag is gonna last, the hours of that bag, you're gonna divide 1,000 mils by 100 mils per hour. The mils are going to cancel out and you're gonna be left with the hours. The hours, okay? So let's do that. This bag is only gonna last 10 hours. So what we're gonna do is do 2.4 mils per hour times 10 hours, because that's how long the bag is gonna last. That equals what? 24 mils into that 1 liter bag. So I know that was kind of just a lot of information. If you have any questions, if you have any corrections, if you have another way of doing the math problem, type it down below. If you want me to do more of these, I can. I probably am not gonna make another video until after my VTNE. I'll probably still keep making like VTNE prep videos just because I really like learning new things and I like sharing new things that I learn. But hopefully I pass. If not, then you have a lot of videos coming to you. So I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.